How's it going, everybody? My name is Cam White, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. What the fuck is going on in the universe for March 23rd through March 30th of 2020? Thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'm super glad you guys can be here with me this week. It's not like you guys have anything else better to do, but last week was pretty crazy. I'm recording this on Sunday, on today, and I'm kind of waiting still, like Saturn ingressed into Aquarius on Saturday, so I feel like on Monday we're really gonna see Saturn and Aquarius come alive, especially like in the political world. But yeah, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. Last week didn't feel as impending, but you know, what was crazy, like, you know, I'm only 23 years old, and I used to like live in like Vegas, and all of my friends work in the service industry, so last week seeing like basically half of everybody I know basically filed for unemployment was pretty like, wow, like that was crazy. We're living in some pretty crazy times right now. Last week was a little bit more chill, I think, comparative to the week before, because man, the week before it was like every day something crazy was going on. But this week, I think it's going to be a little bit weird, but at least we're going to be able to have a fresh start this week. And while it might be a little bit uncomfortable and it's going to be really different, this is a pivotal point this week. So to just bring up the highlights, we have the new moon in Aries starting this week off tomorrow on Monday. And what's important about this new moon in Aries is like, yes, you know, we're now in spring. This is the astrological new year. New moons are all about, you know, like kind of clearing your energy out a little bit, making space for new things to come along and to grow and to build. But this new moon is also squaring the nodes almost exactly. And when you have those lunations in between the nodes, this can almost cycle in that eclipse story that we've been seeing since, you know, last January, the July before that, and the January before that. You can see a little bit of that narrative and that story kind of play out, and you can see, you know, a progression there, and things start to really turn. And so I think that this new moon in Aries is going to be a little bit different, but it is going to be, you know, at least a fresh start going into another direction. And also this week we're going to be having the sun conjoin Chiron. Now, I haven't talked about Chiron in a really long time, but I feel like this is a really good opportunity too. So we'll be talking more about that as we get into Wednesday. But we also have Venus trining Jupiter this week. So there is a little bit of fun and a little bit of hope with that transit. This week seems a little bit chiller. It seems at least a week that we can kind of get our feet leveled, kind of get grounded a little bit more. And I really think that Venus trine Jupiter is going to help with that. And also this week on Sunday, Mercury leaves shadow. Look at that. Totally forgot about Mercury being in shadow this whole time since the whole world's falling apart. But also I'm putting it in this week's horoscope, although it won't be till really next week. Well, technically it's on Sunday/Monday, but Mars will be going into Aquarius and conjoining Saturn, which is kind of going to be like the highlight of March, April, even though you think we might have been the highlights already. So we'll talk more about that as we go through, but let's go ahead and jump into the horoscope. And like I said before, on Monday, we're going to be having the moon moving into Aries, but before it does, it's going to be chilling in Pisces for a little bit. And I think that this is kind of going to give us a time to really kind of take everything in. That's what Pisces is all about. So as the moon's in Pisces, take it all in, feel everything. We're in confusing and weird times. It's okay to be confused and weirded out, and you know, it's okay to be stressed out right now. It's okay to not know what to do or what's going on, you know. Feel that way if you feel that way. But on Monday, as the moon ingresses into Aries, we have this new moon in Aries, and this is going to be about starting something new. Even though that almost sounds weird, even because, you know, everything going on right now, and it's not about starting something new like physically, but like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like initiating a new path, initiating something new in the sense of how you direct your energy, how you use your energy. What are you combating? What are you, you know, confronting? What are you initiating? What are you engaging in? And right now, this new moon's going to be squaring the nodes. And so we have the south node in Capricorn, you know, still kind of like, man, all of this bullshit still going on. And we have the north node in Cancer, like we need to protect ourselves. We need to nurture ourselves more. You know, it's really funny that we're all being super sheltered right now. And it's kind of like the north nodes in Cancer, like we need to protect ourselves. We need to nurture ourselves. We need to stay at home. And this new moon in Aries is probably going to be about initiating that newer path, going, hey, we've focused on that south node in Capricorn for so long. Like, how can we pour more of this north node into it? How can we pour more of this, I don't want to say just Cancer energy, but more of like, how can we, you know, be more defensive of ourselves? How can we be more on top of ourselves? How can we take more charge, and how can we take more control of what we can? You know, there's not a lot of things we have control of in our lives, unfortunately. However, this is going to be a good time to really hone what you can what you can control, what you do have power and influence over. And this is going to be a good time to just kind of go like, hey, we're doing things new. This is unprecedented, so we're doing things new. We're doing things new on Monday. And then as we go into Tuesday, because technically, so like the new moon kind of happens like Monday night. And so then as we go into Tuesday, like really nothing else is going on Tuesday. The moon's just going to be in Aries. So I think this is, again, it's not like there's whole lot going on in the world. I think you're going to be hearing more crazier stuff happen on Tuesday, like in the news. However, again, what are we doing? What are we charged up to do? The moon's going to be in Aries, and even though we're boxed in, it can feel like, we got to do something. We got to occupy ourselves in some way. We're emotionally charged up and need to do something with it. So I think on Tuesday, getting into new habits, getting into new behaviors, just starting something new, anything to occupy your time, occupy yourself, do something with that energy. If you've got the time, try to do that. But then as we go into Wednesday, that's when the moon is going to be squaring Jupiter, Pluto, Mars, and that's when you might see like, okay, doing things new is going to get really tough. Like, this is definitely new. Jupiter's in Capricorn. We don't have all of the money that we need or the access to the resources and the tools that we need. It's, squaring Pluto. Like, this is a big deal. It's squaring Mars. This is fucked up. Like, as we get into Wednesday, you're really going to feel challenged about what you're wanting to start, and you're going to feel like there's just a ton of pushback against it. And it's not about, fighting. It's about being clear on what, I don't want to say your enemy is, but being clear about where the problems lie and doing what you can to combat that, doing what you can to make up for that. Like, Jupiter's in Capricorn right now. There's not like there's, a whole lot of abundance everywhere and everything. And not to say that you should have a scarcity mindset, you should have an abundance mindset, but the moon in Aries squaring Jupiter, Pluto, Mars, it's about going like, okay, what do I have and what can I do with it right now? How do I push back this weight? How do I, overcome this? What do I need to emotionally invest myself into to do? And so I think on Wednesday, it's going to be kind of challenging, but also on Wednesday, we're going to be having the sun conjoin Chiron. And, I talked about Chiron and Aries a few years ago, and I really haven't talked about Chiron since. But I do like Chiron. It's sensitive. It's like a little, spot, on us, like a little sensitive, touchy-feely spot. And it can be difficult to bring up. But as the sun conjoins Chiron, I think this is going to be a time to really kind of look at hey, doing things, fighting, initiating, engaging, feeling that energy. There's some, I don't want to say healing to do there. There's some old wounds there that are going to be brought up, but this is going to be the time to really address those old wounds and go hey, is this still going to hold me back? Or am I going to, work around this, work past this, work through this? Or am I going to let these old wounds still, hold me back? And I think Wednesday is going to be a challenging day. But I think Wednesday is going to also offer us a really good look into what hurts, what is hard, what do we get frustrated with? And that might be a good day to let all of those frustrations out. Then we go into Thursday, and then on Thursday, the moon will enter Taurus, make a conjunction to Uranus. And as the moon conjoins Uranus, this is where, that sense of stability, that sense of security, going to be erratic, being a little bit volatile. I think on Thursday is going to be really interesting to see what happens in the news. That sounds kind of like the whole Trump giving Americans money thing. But as the moon goes into Taurus and conjoins Uranus, how do we find stability and security in new and in innovative ways? How do we liberate ourselves from the old way of doing things, It's kind of like we're all working from home now and everyone's not driving around. People are going hey, maybe I don't need this car, or hey, maybe I don't have to do things this way anymore. This moon in Taurus is going to be about how do we do things different? How are we getting grounded? How are we finding security? How are we getting food in interesting, new, refreshing ways? And it's going to be squaring Saturn as the moon goes into Taurus. And so that kind of sounds like, okay, we're doing things different. This is kind of out of the box here. And I think as the moon goes into Taurus and squares that Saturn in Aquarius, that's when we're really going to start seeing that Saturn in Aquarius come to life of, again, more social distancing, more about, and Saturn just got into Aquarius. We still need some time to process it for ourselves. But this is really going to be about taking a hold of things that aren't necessarily in your sphere, going outside of the box to gain stability, control, and have more and gain more responsibility and creative, and I don't want to say creative and innovative ways. That sounds very Uranian, but in a Saturnian way, going to Aquarius, like how do we structure ourselves in more ways that make better sense for us and not necessarily, I don't want to say for everyone else, but this is for everyone. This is kind of like, how do we fit into this puzzle piece? How do we, we're all our own special snowflake, and how do we all fit into that bigger piece together? And so as the moon goes into Taurus, I think this is going to be about like putting that piece into the puzzle. And I think you're going to see things on a more political, on a more mundane level, kind of bigger, but on a personal level, this is going to challenge you to go out of your comfort zone and to do something different. And then as we get into Friday, that's when the moon is going to be making a sextile to Mercury in Pisces. And so I think this is going to kind of give us the security that we need. The moon in Taurus, maybe you can go grocery shopping and maybe all the toilet paper's back in stock and we can feel a little bit more comfortable and we can tell ourselves like, yes, things are gonna be okay a little bit more. I think Friday is gonna make us feel a lot better, and Venus is gonna be trining Jupiter too. Venus trining Jupiter in a weird time like this, I think it was Ryan Butler, I think, tweeted about this, about how it's like, oh yeah, everyone's staying home and you see all of the birds coming out and the water's clearing up and the air's, like starting to become fresher. Like, you can still find beauty and you can still find, the enjoyable things in, these scarce times and these scary times. And I think Venus trining Jupiter is kind of allowing us to get that beauty, to get that aesthetic pleasure, to be able to at least enjoy what we can while it's there and while we have it. And it's going to be good. Then we get into this weekend, and then on Saturday, that's where we're going to be having the moon conjoin Venus, kind of helping us feel like bring in those aesthetic pleasures, bring in that, the things that we want to indulge ourselves in and that make us feel comfortable and that make us feel, worthy and good and relaxed. Like that moon in Taurus is going to be very much needed on Saturday on this weekend, but you're also going to be seeing the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction begin. Now, it's not going to hit exactly until next week, but on Saturday, Jupiter conjoining Pluto is going to be really weird. It's going to be kind of exacerbating this Jupiter in Capricorn, and I think on more of a political mundane level, it's going to feel a lot more scary. I think you're going to be seeing a lot more things being implemented into the system, I think that's when you'll probably see a lot more of that cash stimulus come through too. But I think while Jupiter starts to conjoin Pluto, I think you're just going to see a huge underlying context of kind of like radical change, radical expansion in the corporate and the government world. So I think that's when you're going to start seeing that come into play. And I mean, they are talking like this is the biggest cash stimulus that they've ever put out. So I think that's very Jupiter and Capricorn. However, the moon's also going to be making a trine to Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars. So I think this is, again, about receiving things, taking things in, things kind of feeling a lot more stable and more secure. Then as we get into Sunday, to finish this weekend, the moon's going to be going into Gemini and making a square to Mercury, but Mercury's going to be leaving shadow. So Mercury is now done dealing with all of the bullshit that was coming around in February. And I think, what's interesting is when Mercury went into Pisces, it was kind of like, like the government was kind of playing off the coronavirus. It wasn't a big deal. And then all of a sudden Mercury retrogrades and you start hearing about like Italy and shit like that. And then it comes back to Aquarius and it's like, oh shit, we need to get our shit together. Such a good analogy for this Mercury in Pisces. It was like, we had the stuff coming up and we just kind of ignored it, did whatever with it, but then once Mercury went back into Aquarius, it's like, fuck, we got to deal with it now. And as Mercury finally leaves shadow, we can start treading new territory. We can start, covering new ground, but this is also going to be a time to just be more open-minded to things, be a little bit more, creative with how we speak, with how we understand things, because things aren't black and white right now. There's no rule book. There is no playbook to go off of. You've got to do what's going to be best for you and what makes sense for you. And that's what Mercury in Pisces is all about. Getting the message across no matter how weird it sounds or how unorthodox it is. You just get the message out there somehow. And then as we get into next week on Monday, that's when we're going to be having Mars go into Aquarius and conjoin Saturn. And I think this is when you're going to see like the whole, like if there is a, federal level, like quarantine or something like that, I think that's when you'll definitely see it. I think this is when you'll probably see, and that's starting Monday of next week. This is when you're going to see all of the big things kind of manifest into the world, and we're really going to see what Saturn and Aquarius is all about. We're probably going to be a lot more distant because that Saturn and Aquarius theme is coming very much alive right now, and Mars is kind of energizing the Saturn and Aquarius, but Mars also severs and cuts, so there is this idea of like social distancing, of isolation, of kind of like working on a certain thing by yourself. Going rogue is almost a good way to put it too. So as we start next week, we're going to go into a very weird time, but I'm going to cover more about the Mars conjoining Saturn next week as we start Monday, because next week, dude, okay, listen to this. We have Venus going into Gemini next week too, along with Mars conjoining Saturn. Like, I can't believe Venus is already going to be in Gemini, and we're getting ready for the Venus retrograde and the nodes going into Gemini and Sagittarius. So a lot to take in with saying that. But also next week, Mercury is going to conjoin Neptune, and we're also going to be having Jupiter conjoin Pluto exactly. And so next week's going to be kind of wild, seeing Mars conjoin Saturn. I think Venus and Gemini is going to be interesting because usually Venus and Gemini, we want to socialize and we want to be out there. But since we're all quarantined and, in lockdown, I'm wondering what's going to be going on with Venus and Gemini. Mercury is going to conjoin Neptune. There's going to be a lot of confusion. And Jupiter is going to conjoin Pluto. There's a lot of big shit popping off. So I hope you guys can get through this week. Remember to wash your hands. Remember to, try to stay away from each other. And let's have some faith that we're going to be getting over this. This will be an interesting story to tell our kids and our grandchildren. And in the meantime, enjoy what you can while you have it, while you can enjoy it. There's no, like I said, there's no rule book, there's no playbook on how to be living your life or doing your thing right now. Especially, I just have so many close people that I know lose their jobs and file for unemployment, and there's nothing they can even do right now. It's what do you fucking do? I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think something good right now is to do what you can while you can and enjoy what you can, because right now we could all use a little bit of relaxation. We can all use a little bit of fresh air. We can all use a little bit of more fun. So try to find that this week as much as you can. And also, I was trying to remember what else I wanted to talk about. I didn't get to do my monthly horoscopes this month. I am sorry. May I can do them. I will get to those monthly horoscopes. I've been busy, preoccupied with other things. Hope you guys understand. I know you do. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'll be seeing you next week.